We're going to ask ourselves, what is that decision? To where does he go to? Why does he do what he does in Beersheba? What are his plans? Is he totally in trust, in full heart, what he's doing is the right thing? Does he consent? What to do? What are his suspicions, if there are suspicions? And does Hashem have for him the solutions to his suspicions? So we started with the end of verse 27 here in chapter 45. Vatichi ruach Yaakov avihem. And before we say this, let's make it clear, as I learned from my dear father-in-law, Rabbi Horowitz, there are people. Have you heard of an airport here next to Petach Tikva called Ben Gurion Airport? Yeah. That's a place where not only is very happy where people are incoming and joining the Jewish people and living in the land of Israel, but I don't know if you're aware, but sit back, let me tell you the news. There are people that also leave the country. People that leave the country. And in order to leave the country, there are those that ask for permission from this office or that office. And there are times that people are delayed until they get a heter yetziah, an exit permit to leave the country. They ask this rabbi, that rabbi, and so on and so forth. We're going to study that Yaakov Avinu also was delayed in regards to his decision to visit his son, Yosef, that he's not seen for 22 years or more, until he gets a heter yetziah, an exit permit. Why? Why does he need a exit permit? And from who does he need an exit permit? And what kind of answer does he get from Hashem? In order to really understand what's happening, let's remember who has been in a sense of sadness and mourning for 22 years? Yaakov himself. He has yet to complete his mourning period. And we learned that while someone is still alive, and he doesn't know about this, but he refuses to be comforted. Vayima'ein litnachem, we learned a few weeks ago, he refused to be receiving nechama, consolation. Some of you know the ingredients, not for apple pie, but for receiving divine inspiration, for receiving prophecy. One of the most preliminary things you must have is simcha, happiness. Yaakov has not been in a state of happiness for 22 years. If that's the case, what has not been on him? Prophecy. The Shekhinah. Okay? As the Talmud says, Ein ha-Shekhinah shora mitoch atzvot. Gemara Masechet Shabbat, page 30. The divine presence does not fall upon someone out of sadness. If a person's in a state of sadness, it doesn't come. Now, we can prove from the end of verse 27, Vatichi ruach Yaakov avihem. What does it mean that the spirit of Yaakov is revived? The answer could be very simple. That now for the first time, the Shekhinah, the divine presence, is upon him. The ability to prophesy, to receive divine communication is now applicable to him. Until now, for the last 22 years, it was not. Why? He was sad. So here we open up this new portion to new Yaakov Avinu. His inner being, he's a different person now. Wow, Yosef's alive. By the way, he doesn't, let's see, does he reflect upon two statements told him? He's told that Od Yosef Chai, and number two, V'chihu Moshel, and that he's a governor or leader in the land of Mitzrayim. Pasuk Kafchet, the ending of the chapter, notice Vayomer Yisrael. The higher level of his existence. Yisrael is speaking. Rav Od Yosef Beni Chai. Elcha ve'erenu b'terem amut. Gentlemen, the reaction of Yaakov is just about, wow, I have a chance to see my son. Rav, that's the greatest thing. Rav from the word a lot, not rabbi. Okay? Rav here means a lot. Okay? In other words, his reaction is, I'm not even relating to the second statement that he is a governor, he is a leader. What I want to do is, it's enough, Rav. It's like maspikli. Rav can mean it's enough for me, daily. That's all that he's interested in. Okay? The fact that he's alive and I want to see him. What does it say? Elcha ve'erenu b'terem amot. Notice the verb. I want to go to lirot. It doesn't say that he's interested in what? Residing there, living there. He's buying a two-way ticket to go down and come back. Just want to go see him. Why? Because it's not a simple matter to exit the land of God. It's not a simple matter. This is not just a philosophical matter. This is a halachic, practical matter. That even prior to the Torah given at Sinai, Yaakov realizes the utter value of this land. The land of his fathers and ancestors, the land of the Bible, the land of godliness, the land of prophecy, and so on. So, but he's talking about Yisrael. I'm going to be doing something which is so prominent, so lofty. The new chapter, Memvav. Vayisa Yisrael v'chol hashalom. He takes whatever he has, doesn't know exactly for how long he's going. Vayavo Be'era Shava, which is which direction? South. Vayizbach zevachim lelohei aviv Yitzchak. We ask ourselves, why is he going there? And why is he bringing sacrifices? My dear friends, it seems that he's well learned from his dad and his grandfather. Okay? Be'er Sheva was the place that his father Yitzchak arrived to in the Gerar area next to the Plishtim area, southwestern land of Israel, south of Ashkelon and so on. And there he arrived, one stop before going down to Egypt on the coastal road perhaps. But God says, stop, you can't go down. His father received a red light. Will Yaakov also receive a red light or a green light or something in between? In order to get an answer to God, you got to spiritually uplift yourself. There could be in this area the former altar built by his father, grandfather, and maybe he uses it to bring sacrifices. What's the word for sacrifices? Korban. What is the root of the word korban? Karov, closeness, proximity. By doing this, what his father, his grandfather did, giving gifts for the sake of God, slaughtering an animal, which was common during biblical times, maybe that will bring upon Yaakov the ability to be the recipient of prophecy. And he does it, Lelokei Aviv Yitzchak, okay? Not for the sake of his father, but the God that revealed himself to his father. Remember, he has not received prophecy in 22 years. He must generate some spiritual energy, spiritual activity of closeness, kirvat Elokim. And now, let's see the result of this doing. Pasuk Bet, verse 2. Vayomer Elokim to who? LeYisrael. When? B'marot halayla. That's interesting. What is this? A diary book? I have to know when God spoke to him? Question mark. God says to him, Vayomer Yaakov, Yaakov, Vayomer Hineni. The revelation. And he responds. We're going to go back to it in a moment. And now, Vayomer Anochi Akel Elokei Avicha. How do you do? I am the God of your father, the God of your father. Al Tira, don't have fear Midah Mitzrayma. Why? Ki L'goy Gadol Asimcha Sham. Anochi, further part of the communique here. I, God says to Yaakov, Ereid Imecha Mitzrayim. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to go down. Ve'anochi and I, A'alcha Gam Alo. I'm going to bring you back up. V'yosef yashit yado, he will place his hand, his abilities, his management, his supervision, al einecha, on your eyes. And that's the end of this matter. Gentlemen, we talked about there's a need for getting an exit and permit to leave the country. Yitzchak, like we said before, wanted to get that exit permit, but God didn't allow him. God revealed himself to his father in the city of Beersheba and prevented his exit. We learned and spoke about the holiness, the sanctity of Yitzchak more than anyone else. Out of awe, out of fear, he served God in great levels. From there, perhaps, my father-in-law suggests, that's where maybe Yaakov learned from his father that you just can't leave the land of Israel, even for a short term. His plan is Elchenu ve'erenu. I want to go there before I die just to see him. This could have been about 50 years ago, approximately, that Yitzchak tried to do this. And now, remember, Vayitze Yaakov mi Beersheba, vayelech Haran. He went from Beersheba to go to Chutz La'aretz. He went first to Beersheba, Yaakov himself. When he got an exit, when he was running away from his brother, it was a pikuach nefesh matter. Yaakov again went to, or before for the first time, went to Beersheba. Okay? Now, God appears to him. The Torah sees need to say that it's at an appearance of night, Laila. Some say that it was really daytime, yet all of a sudden, night, darkness, came upon Yaakov. What is it coming to teach us? This event of Yaakov leaving the land of Israel is similar to darkness, is similar to nighttime. It's similar to the period of exile that the Jews will be in when we're living abroad. Metaphorically, it's considered not like Yom, but it's considered like Laila. And this is, of course, a great lesson for Yaakov and for his sons for all generations. To leave the land of Israel is like a period of choshech, a period of darkness. And it's not a period of or. It's not a period of light. And this is totally emphasized so much by prophecies of Yechezkel and Yeshayahu and others. And therefore, we shouldn't think with mistakenly in a fantasy, that it's great in LA, it's great in New York, it's great in Dusseldorf, and it's great in all these cities to be living. Well, I have a synagogue. I have a super duper kosher pizza shop. I have a mikveh. Wow, a lot of religious Jews and Shtiblach and all these things and so on and so forth. There's only one land for the Jewish people. There's only one land that has the ability for the development of Torah, of God, of serving God, of being a real nation, and it's only here. Yes, what do you want to say before I go on?
Yes, I see similarities with a previous story when Yaakov was leaving to Haran. There was darkness coming in the Temple Mount. If so, if there's any relation to that,
sure.
And if so, why is the explanation different? Why? Because in the previous journey, it says that Hashem wants a tzaddik to spend a night instead of leaving it. But now here, when we say darkness fell during the day, it's more like going to Galut. But in both scenarios, I see that both of them. He's leaving Eretz Israel. So is there a connection?
So of course, they're both Yaakov Avinu. They're both leaving the land of Israel, and the sun suddenly set. And the first time when he was in Beit El, but it says he left from Beersheba. There's very, very. My dear friends, did you see the urgency of the calling out of God? Vayomer, Yaakov, Yaakov. Not everyone. It's not that Yaakov has a hearing aid and he has to, and he's getting called twice. The Talmud tells us how many in the Tanakh were summoned twice. Their names called twice. 3 people. And they are? Avraham, Yaakov, Shmuel. Very good. Very nice. You guys are learning beautiful Chumash and Tanakh. Keep up the great work. 3 people merited. It's called a merit. It's a virtue. The love of God. When he calls you twice, there's chiba. I think Rashi even brings it. Lashon chiba, language. Hey, Habibi, you've heard of the term in Hebrew, Habibi? Chiba, love, amiable, okay? Yavram merited it when he was commanded to go to binding his son Yitzchak, okay? Moshe merited it at his first divine appearance at the burning bush, the Sneh, and Shmuel, like you said. So here we're noticing Yaakov, there's urgency, there's love here. And what is Yaakov's reply? Hineni, I'm ready, whatever you want, I'm ready to do it. I'm totally submitted, anava, humility, to whatever you say. Now, Yaakov is expecting what we call a temporary green light. He wants to get a heter, permission, to leave temporarily, just to do what? To see his son Yosef, and then come back. And here it is, in the appearance of night. Okay? He's not going to be getting permission. He's going to be commanded. He's going to be commanded to go down to Mitzrayim. There's no doubt. There's no, okay, you can do it. No, it's not reshut. If you want, you do it. If you don't want, you don't do it. You're going to be going down there and have a divine plan for you. My dear friends, psychologically, I want with you together, let's figure out a wonderful commentary called, I think it's the Malbim, yes, one of the great later commentators 150, 200 years ago, explains, and we all been learning this. If God comes to Yaakov and says, Al tira, don't be afraid, what's going on in his heart? He's afraid. He's absolutely afraid. If Hashem says, don't be afraid, that means Yaakov right now is experiencing fear. Could you think, what are the suspicions of Yaakov? What is he afraid of? Why is he afraid? Ideas, gentlemen, that you have. Shua.
He's afraid that Yosef was corrupted.
That Yosef was
corrupted when he was in Egypt.
That he was corrupt.
That he got corrupted from the Egyptian culture.
So we call that hitbolilut, assimilation. Okay? Okay? 1 second, sir. So, number one, he's afraid of assimilation. Very nice. He's afraid of assimilation. Why? Where is there room for assimilation?
When he married an Egyptian.
you go down to Chutz La'aretz. You're invited to first to the Sweet 16 party, and then this and that. All of a sudden, you're marrying a non-Jewish woman. Is the fear only of Yosef of assimilation? It's the fear of all his sons. He's afraid that all the kids might assimilate. Kids, they're adults, they're family people. And what will be taken away from the world, the specialty of what will be the Jewish people? God says, don't worry. Ki legoy gadol asimcha sham. Meaning, even though you're going to be living in a foreign land, they're going to be turning into a goy. A lot of people don't understand the concept. Gimel, Vav, Yud. Where's the first time we meet up with this concept in the Torah?
Avram.
What did God tell Avram? I'm going to make you into a goy gadol. Goy gadol, chapter 12, verse, 3 or 4, I forgot, in Bereshit, Genesis. Goy means a unique culture, a unique entity, different than anyone else. That's really, a goy includes a culture, a special language, a way of life. That's the term goy. Don't be afraid. I'm in charge. I'm going to make out of you a what? As in verse 3, Ki legoy gadol asimcha sham. That's taking care of suspicion or worry, number one. Worry number two.
It's going to be buried in Egypt and not
Very good. He's afraid of being buried in Egypt. Very good. Why doesn't he want to be buried in Egypt? He wants to be. Good. He has a reservation. He has a reservation in the city of Hebron, where his Abba Yitzchak and Rivka, and where Saba, Grandpa Avram, and his grandmother Sarah are buried. So he's afraid that I'm going to be buried in Mitzrayim. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. He's afraid of burial in Mitzrayim. What does God say to solve this fear?
That Yosef,
Number 4. Va'anochi a'alcha. Don't worry, I'm going to bring you back. La'alot. I will bring you up to the land. If that's your fear, it's on me. I will bring you back. Other fears or suspicions, gentlemen, that Yaakov may have now.
Going against the Ratzon of Hashem.
That's why he's asking. That's why he's asking. What by definition might happen by going to Chutz La'aretz? You talked about assimilation. What about, if there's going to be assimilation, what will be the result of that as far as the population is concerned? We will not be what? We won't become a goy. He's afraid that the population of the house of Jacob will decrease. Okay? The house of Yaakov will decrease. What does Hashem say to him? I'm going to make you, I purposely wrote the word gadol, larger letters. I'm going to make you into a goy gadol. Don't think that the population, the rate of productivity, the rate of fertility is going to, what usually happens in Chutz La'aretz. People have smaller families and you're going to decline. What's going on in China today, for instance? Is it true that there's like a 0 birth rate in China? I'm asking anyone.
Bad, yeah.
What?
It's not that bad, yeah.
It's not that bad, but which country is it very bad? I heard that in Sweden.
Eastern Europe, too.
What? All of Europe?
Yeah, all Western Europe. Japan.
I think Italy is minus.
Yeah, Japan. I've heard Japan. It's a big problem.
Minus?
Yeah.
In Italy?
Every year there are less
the same in Japan.
180,000 Italians.
Wow. The fear of Yaakov is that our families will decrease in population. God says, no worry. I'm going to make you into a goy gadol. Another fear. What will happen to?
In the previous chapter, he says that he wants to go down to Egypt and see Joseph before he dies. So maybe he's afraid that something happened to him before he sees him.
Very nice. He's afraid that he will not see Yosef. I mean, it's not a one-day trip, is it? It could take a week, perhaps, from where he's living, or at least 3 or 4 days. So, if Yosef dies, he's fearful of Yosef dying. What does God say? Fear.
Yosef will put his hand on your eye.
There it is. Fear of Yosef dying. Yosef yashit yado, as we see in verse 4. Yosef will put his hands on your eyes. Okay? Don't worry. Jews are always worrying. Relax. Don't worry that you're going to see Yosef. And he'll bless you and take care of you. 1, 2, 3, 4 worries. Another worry. When you go to Chutz La'aretz, right now we had a revival. A revival of what? Of spirit. Shechina, like you said. Prophecy, like you said. Are the doors open for prophecy in Chutz La'aretz? Usually they're not.
Well,
right?
Abraham was told in Chutz La'aretz to go to Canaan. So
That's right. Very good question. And therefore the opening word of Bereshit chapter 12 is Vayomer. One second, sir. A line of communication. However, greater than that is that when he gets to Eretz Yisrael, he gets to the Shomron, he gets to Shechem Elom Moreh, when God talks to him there, it says Vayera. What's the difference between Vayomer and Vayera? Vayera, as God appeared. It's a higher level of appearance, of revelation to the prophet. So a genuine fear of Yaakov Avinu. He's afraid that what's not going to be on him in Chutz La'aretz? No Shechina. No Shechina. What is God's promise? Anochi ered imcha. I'm going to go down with you. The Shechina will go down with, the divine presence will go down with Yaakov Avinu. Guard you and manage you. Okay? The last one will be that maybe the sons, the generations will be forever there in Egypt. And God says, no. Gam alo. I'm going to bring you back. Up. La'alot. Aliyah. Okay? Gentlemen, we see not by mere incidents the suspicions of Yaakov Avinu, the fears that he has. According to this understanding of the Malbim, okay? God understands Yaakov. But God is saying, you're going to be going down there. I'm not telling you when to come back. It could very well be that Yaakov doesn't understand before this revelation that he has to change his plans. It could very well mean that, I'm just changing my address temporarily from Hebron to Mitzrayim through Beersheba until, how many years left to the famine? 5. Do you understand that the initial plan of Yaakov could very well be going down for a week or a month and coming back? And if Yosef wants to support, what's the problem of sending food stamps? What are they called? Sending coupons. He'll send me money. I'll go back to Eretz Yisrael and he'll support me from here. Therefore, what we're learning now is what Yosef apparently understands. Yosef sees the dreams coming true. Yosef sees that these are the wheels of the performance of the prophecy of God to Avram Avinu. I'm going to make you into a divine nation. I'm going to turn you into what the ability is to form a nation. If you and I would sit with strategy and plan out how to build this nation of God called the children of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, probably all of you would say it'll be done in Yerushalayim, somewhere in the old city, and that's where they're going to be. We'll make a ghetto, we'll build the Chinese wall around the city, no one can go in, and that's how we're going to form. But you know what? Hashem is surprising all of us. Hashem has the divine absolute plan how to form the nation of God. He's going to bring Yaakov Avinu down, and educationally we're going to learn that your plan is not God's plan. God's plan is not your plan. He has an entirely different plan. By the way, hundreds of years ago when God promised the outline of this plan, He didn't say it's going to be in Mitzrayim. But now, this is what's happening. We're going to go down and live in a ghetto called, with the letter Gimel, Goshen. More or less be isolated and separate from the Egyptians living there, which is the opposite culture, a vulgar culture, a culture of the lack of modesty, the lack of any kindness, hospitality, the lack of holiness, idolatry. And we're going to be living and growing for generations until a time comes. The timing will be that when 70 people go down, as we're learning here, okay, in the Parsha, and the 70 are counted, as you see in verse 6, it begins, Vayikchu et miknehem, the wagons are taken, everything is there, Vedruchusham, all their possessions, remember they have the truck company of Paro, Asher Rachshu Beretz Canaan, Vayivo Mitzrayma, and they start counting, Yaakov, V'chol Zaro Ito. Gentlemen, the author of the Haggadah of Passover, when we relate to God bringing down the people down to Mitzrayim, the section of the Bikurim, the first ripened fruits, in the book of Devarim, chapter 26, is mentioned there. And a paraphrase of this pasuk which says here Vayavo Mitzrayim, he came down to Mitzrayim. There it says Vayered Mitzrayim in the section of the Bikurim. And I want to bring you the famous words of our sages. Yaakov going down to Mitzrayim, Anus al pi hadibur. Anus is something which is not in your hands. It's called duress. It's as if you're forced. God's plan of the formation of the Jewish people is now the wheels are even moving more. The wheels are moving more. Yaakov has no choice. He's basically told he has to go down there. And he's going to stay longer than he expected. And God gives us all these promises. Okay? To assuage, to calm down all his real suspicions and worries. And here it is, the entire mishpacha, the entire family is listed until we get to the end of the section, verse 27. We get a summation of how many people are now joining Yaakov going down there, wives and children, shishim vashesh, at the end of verse 26. 66 people, okay? 66 people. And at the same time, who's already down there? Yosef and who else? His wife and children. Sum total of 70 people. The number 70 is not by mere incidence. The number of 70 is now the core, the heart. We're only a family. Okay? My wife right now is in Merkaz Shapira. She went to the house of the great Rabbi Druckman. She's paying her what is it called? Her respects, a consolation call, because she grew up with the family with their daughters. My wife's family and their family were neighbors for 13 years. Rabbi Druckman has 10 children. His oldest, if I'm not mistaken, who's a great nurse in the Kaplan Hospital, has 16 children. And Rav Druckman certainly has more than 100 grandchildren and more than 200 great-grandchildren already. Do you know what that means? That's a tribe. That's a tribe.
A village.
Thank you. Yeah. Very good point. Here, 70 is the core, the heart. From this number 70, we learn about that there are 70 nations in the world, core nations in the world, that are parallel to the heart. The heart is the number 70, not numerically. The 70 people from which we will grow. In a few generations from now, we will reach a number which metaphysically, as the Maharal of Prague explains, when we reach this number, which will mean 600,000 men at the age of 20 and above, that is the beginning of an appearance of the nation of God. He decided. When we reach that number, that's it. The wheels of redemption begin. Until then, we're going to spend this time in the galut. Yes, we're going to suffer assimilation. We're going to learn about these things. Already, we're told at the end of the parsha. Please turn to the last pasuk. Vayeshev, is that the last pasuk? Yes, it is. Vayeshev Yisrael be'eretz Mitzrayim be'eretz Goshen vayachazuba vayefru vayirbu me'od. Here, according to the Kli Yakar, one of the great middle-aged, between the Rishonim and the Achronim commentators, explains, notice the words Vayeshev Yisrael. The word to dwell, to settle, is usually a word used in regarding the land of Israel. What is the mitzvah of settling the land in Hebrew called? Liyashev et haaretz. To settlement activity, whether you're in Rishon LeZion or you're in the Gush Etzion or so on, is called hityashvut. We're not afraid to use that word. Hityashvut liyashev et haaretz. Our ancestors came here at the turning of the 20th century from European countries and other places to settle the land, the early pioneers, and then from Northern Africa and so on and so forth, from Iraq, Iran, and so on and so forth, and they're settling the land. Here, the Torah uses Vayeshev in regards to settling Mitzrayim. This could be the beginning of assimilation. Not only that, it says, Vayachazuba. They're seizing onto the land. Okay? Rabbi Beryl Wine, a great rabbi and historian, made aliyah from his Muncie community, 30, 40 years ago. He's the head of the, what is it called, the President's Synagogue in Rechavia in town. He's a great historian, he's published many books. He says often, Jews are very unique and very special. When they begin assimilating, then they become the best citizens of that country. Jews can be great Greek. We're better than the regular Greeks, when we're living in Greece. And when we're in Germany, we're better than the regular Germans. In other words, the assimilation is so great that we become the best citizens of these Gentile countries. And I think the word vayechazuba, seizing onto the land, we're beginning seizing onto the culture. And vayifru, vayirbu ma'od. Two verbs and a superlative. Vayifru, perot, fruitful, vayirbu, they're multiplying. Me'od, here it is. The wheels are rolling. The Brit Ben Abtarim is moving. And B'ezrat Hashem,